Islam and the modern world. The United States is breaking the world into pieces. Geopolitical blocs, rival ideologies, economic and tech race are the key factors contributing to the divisions. The US-led old order weakens. Its quest for hegemony is misguided and self-destructive. Interventionist foreign and security policy continues to destabilize the world. In the last 4 decades, the US is desperately struggling to heat back any threats to its unipolar hegemony. The US has 750 military bases in at least 80 countries and deeply involves itself in all the world's major conflicts. Its key wars, either in Ukraine, South China Sea, or Middle East, were carried out for the sole purpose of protecting its dying hegemony. US interventionist foreign policy remained the key source of destabilizing the different regions. After a Second World War, for the first time, Europe entered into a war hysteria. It's only because of the US's desire to expand the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, to the doorstep of Russia. European nations once again have restarted their once shut down defense industrial units to counter the external threats rising on the horizon. At the European front, the US dragged Russia into a war and opened the second front against China in South China Sea to counter its economic and technological growth. Washington and its key policymakers believe that wars, conflicts, and interventions against rising powers could be a key to destabilize their declining hegemony. Recently, after the death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash, the Wall Street Journal editorial board brazenly argued and encouraged the US to intervene and overthrow the Iranian regime. Whereas on the European front, prominent diplomats, including Victoria Nuland, urged the US government to help Ukraine strike inside Russian territory, and surprisingly, Biden announced that he will do just that. American hawkish foreign policy becomes the primary root cause of major geopolitical conflicts. In the last 2 years, since the start of Russia and Ukraine war, Washington has provided more than $55 billion military assistance, whereas its partners in Europe are providing military assistance and bombs. In the previous week, Ukraine has received almost 4.2 billion euros from the European Union as the first payment under the Ukraine facility, a 4-year plan in which the European Union will provide up to 50 billion euros in grants and loans to play a significant role in Ukraine's recovery. This announcement comes after Ukraine's President Zelensky acknowledged the Ukrainian incursion in Russia for the first time. The US and its allies desire to expand the war to Russian cities with the ambition to get Moscow stuck in the war, and Zelensky is doing it for the Americans and receiving dollars and bombs. In contrast, the second front, the Middle East, is getting hotter, where the US is financing Israel's war to carry out genocide and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. To support the war crimes, the US has been providing bombs and financial assistance to Israel. In the recent weeks, first, the Washington has released $3.5 billion to Israel to spend on US-made weapons and military equipment, and later on, the US approved $20 billion in arms sales to Israel. The new $20 billion package will be intended for scores of fighter jets, advanced air-to-air missiles, 50 F-15 fighter jets, and high explosive mortars and tactical devices. Israel's 10-month incursion into Gaza left more than 40,000 people dead since 7th of October. Thousands more are believed to be buried under the rubble. Moreover, in the recent weeks, the United States massively moved their military assets in the Middle East to counter threats from Iran. The Washington's third war, the South China Sea, directed towards China, is also massively financed to keep China at bay and has become a dangerous flashpoint between two powers, where the US backs Taiwan and Philippines and vows to defend its allies' rights. Following 9/11, the US spent $8 trillion on wars, lost thousands of soldiers. Without Washington's meddling in Ukraine or Middle East, all these deaths and destruction would likely never have occurred. All wars, either in Ukraine, in the Middle East, or South China Sea, only exists to save the drowning hegemony of a superpower. Interventionist policies will continue, and we will see more wars.